Okay, let's dive in. Right now, as we speak, a series of incredibly urgent, high-stakes talks are happening in Islamabad, Pakistan. And honestly, the outcome could be the difference between a very fragile peace and a truly devastating regional war. So this is the big question, right? Tensions have been ratcheting up for weeks. And this diplomatic push, with Pakistan playing the middleman, might just be the last real chance to pull everyone back from the brink of a much, much wider conflict. You see, Pakistan is playing a crucial role here. They're trying to build a bridge between two sides that seem, well, miles apart. The goal is simple on paper, but incredibly difficult in reality. De-escalate things before this conflict spirals completely out of control and sucks in the entire Middle East. So who exactly is at the table for this diplomatic high-wire act? Let's take a look at the key delegations because their decisions, or maybe their indecisions, are going to shape everything that happens next.
The makeup of these teams tells you a lot. From Iran, you've got Parliament Speaker Ghalib Afaf and Foreign Minister Iraqi, there to present Tehran's views. From the U.S., Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff have been sent, officially, just to hear the Iranians out. And caught in the middle, you have Pakistan's Prime Minister and Army Chief trying to mediate. Now, here's the kicker. The Iranians are already there, but the U.S. team, they're still back in Washington.
And this quote from the U.S. Defense Secretary pretty much sums up Washington's public stance. The message they're sending is one of complete patience. They're saying, hey, we feel no pressure, we're not in a rush, and we'll wait for what we consider a good deal.
Now, contrast that calm, patient vibe with this threat from a hardline Iranian MP. He's warning that another U.S. attack would unleash a response designed to cripple the entire region's economy. So one side is projecting patience, the other is threatening absolute catastrophe. The gap between them is just enormous.
And this brings us to a huge, huge complication. Even if these two sides could somehow find common ground, there's this critical question hanging over the Iranian delegation. Who in Tehran actually has the authority to cut a deal? And maybe more importantly, who has the power to make it stick?
To really get the power vacuum in Iran, you have to understand this concept of performative authority. Basically, in their political system, it's not enough to just have a title. Power has to be seen. It needs to be exercised publicly to be considered real. And right now, that performance is missing from the very top.
Just look at this chain of command, or lack thereof. At the top, you have the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, who, get this, hasn't been seen in public since he took power. Below him, the government seems to be handling day-to-day operations, but not big-picture strategy. And the guy leading the delegation, Speaker Ghalibaf, his own position is being described as precarious and not clearly authorized. It's a dangerously confusing power structure. This analysis from the BBC's Amir Azimi really hits the nail on the head. The new supreme leader's total absence from public view creates a massive power vacuum. In a system that demands you perform your authority, his silence leaves everybody, including his own negotiators, wondering who is actually calling the shots. Okay, so beyond all the leadership chaos, what are the fundamental issues keeping these two sides so far apart? Let's break down the core disagreements that are stopping any real progress from being made. The deadlock really boils down to two huge issues. First, the U.S. is insisting its blockade of Iranian ports is going to continue. Iran, on the other hand, is demanding an end to what it calls piracy at sea. Then Washington wants to talk about Iran's nuclear program, but the hardliners in Tehran insist that topic is completely not on the table. We're talking about fundamental, non-negotiable red lines for both sides. And oh, it doesn't stop there. Trust between them is at rock bottom, especially after the U.S. launched military strikes during a previous round of talks. The Pentagon is openly saying it's locked and loaded on Iranian targets, while Israel's defense minister says they're just waiting for the green light from the U.S. to attack. And all of this is happening while Israel and Hezbollah and Iranian proxy are clashing. The whole situation is an absolute powder keg. And this number tells another critical part of the story. For 57 days straight, the Iranian government has had the country under a near total internet blackout. This is a way to crush internal dissent and control information, for sure, but it also paints a picture of a regime that's under immense internal pressure while it's trying to negotiate on the world stage. So, with all that said, where does this leave us? Well, the immediate future seems to hinge on what looks like a massive, and you have to wonder if it's intentional, logistical mess-up, a missed connection that could pretty much doom the entire effort. Just look at this timing.
On Friday, Iran's foreign minister wraps up his talks in Pakistan. Saturday morning, he leaves for a tour of Oman and Russia. It's not until Saturday afternoon that the U.S. envoys Kushner and Witkoff are even scheduled to leave Washington. They won't get to Islamabad until Sunday. They are, quite literally, set to miss each other completely. It makes you seriously question whether a direct meeting was ever really in the cards.
And that brings us to the final, really unsettling question. When you have these deeply entrenched positions, a leadership vacuum in Tehran, and now envoys who can't even manage to be in the same city at the same time, you just have to wonder, is the window for peace already slamming shut before it ever really opened?